Hey guys, and welcome to the channel. Dominic Thiem is back, but not really back, is he? He's not really back at the moment. We're going to get into it. Dominic Thiem loses again, and the comeback is not going according to plan. Of course, after a very, very long layoff, I think it was almost 2 years, if I'm not mistaken. The Austrian is back in action. He's played a challenger, lost there, then he's had a couple of more matches, and he's lost in first rounds. Look, I mean, it's very sad, to be perfectly honest with you, to see him not playing anywhere near his top level. We're seeing flashes of it. We definitely are. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down the match as I always do, give a post-match review, and then also talk about maybe, and really this is going to be pure speculation, so do not take anything I say as gospel about how his return might end up, the different outcomes after the last couple of results he's had, because I think really it gets to a point where if he's not winning at all, you need to sit down and think what's going on. And I'm really hoping it's not going to be another situation like we had with Del Potro, where he just kept on getting injured, and as the wrist as well, there was a big issue, similar to Thiem. We hope not. Right, let's get into this then. Benjamin Bonzi. I thought you played some really good tennis, the Frenchman, to be perfectly honest with you. I thought you played really well. But before we get on to him, I want to talk about Dominic Thiem. Now, there's a couple of things, and I think we can obviously bring up the stats. And you can see here he lost 6-3, 7-6. A fantastic tiebreaker, by the way, from both, I have to say. 11-9. Thiem was playing some of his better tennis in that tiebreaker. I ended up losing it, though, unfortunately. Just didn't really have enough in the clutch moments. So I think the first thing to note is that he was making a lot of first serves. You can see that 73% is pretty solid, and 4 aces as well. And I think the serve looks, I would say about 80-85% of what it used to, and that's okay, because he will get back up to about 100% on that serve. I don't think the serve's an issue. I think the serve seems okay. Doesn't seem like there's massive issues there. He's hitting a really good kick serve out wide on the ad side to the backhand, and that is a go-to serve for most players on the clay courts. It's definitely at least a variation that they'll hit on these courts. And then he was managing to hit the flatter one down the tee as well, really nicely. And generally, I just thought it was a pretty good serving display if we just isolate the serve completely. But then if you look at the first serve points won and second serve points won, now the first serve points won, this improved throughout the match. I mean, at the end of the first set, I think it was below 70%. Ended up at 72%. That's okay. And the reason why I say that's okay is for someone like Dominic Thiem, who relies, let's be honest, his game relies upon his intensity, upon hitting the ball clean with high intensity and being dynamic. And that means hitting winners. That means having a fantastic 1+ game. So, when he hits a good serve, that 1+ shot is either a winner or it's a shot that gets him on the front foot straight away, where he only needs 1 shot, maximum 2 shots to finish off the rally, and he's on the front foot throughout. That is pretty much what he's looking to do on his service game. Well, that's what he's looked to do throughout his whole career. He wasn't really able to do that for the most part anyway throughout, and that's why he only won 72%. Now, you might say, well, 72% is not too bad. Now, for most players, it's not, but I think for him, it needs to be higher. I think it does. And the reason why is you can see there on the second serve points won, 43% of points won only. Now, his second serve, I don't think is super weak, but it's also not a massive strength. I think also, given that he's injured, well, he was injured and he's still recovering, I think he's not going to go for that as much. I wasn't able to see, and I don't think Estoril had the kilometers per hour or miles per hour kind of scale on there for serving. So I had no idea how quickly he was serving. But I would say it's probably serving around the 80 to 90 maximum mile per hour mark for the second serve. I mean, that's just on an eye test. And a lot of the times they weren't in corners, they were down the middle of the box with, yes, notably it had a lot of spin on it, but wasn't really much of a threat to Bonzi. Whereas if you look at Bonzi, only 56% of first serves in, but look at the first serve percentage of points won, not that much higher at 79%. Only the 7% difference, although when you get to that upper echelon, it is kind of incremental gains. And then second set points won 70%. So that is incredible, to be fair, from Benjamin Bonzi. Now, 5 aces for him, 4 for Dominic Thiem, 3 double faults as well. I mean, look, I wouldn't be too worried about that. Again, it's lack of match practice. What I would be worried about is one, as I said, the 1+ play, which again, you might say, well, he's rusty, that's why. But no, it's not that. It's not that. It's not that he was hitting or attempting to go and be proactive with his shots for the most part. It actually was he was holding back at times, or he was overcooking it because then he was going for too much. He just wasn't able to find the right balance, especially on the forehand side. The backhand, we saw flashes of brilliance on that one-hander. It is a phenomenal shot to witness. It really is. In the forehand, to be fair, look, I mean, it also is when it's firing, but he obviously had surgery on that right wrist, and that's taken a long time to recover. He's had a lot of setbacks. Now, I'm not so sure he. I'm not so sure about how comfortable he is on the forehand side. I think he looks very uncomfortable. Now, one of someone actually said to me that one of the subscribers that in practice he didn't look particularly good. As in the forehand, it just looked like he was struggling so much with how he was hitting it, the timing, just everything about it, the swing. Normally, I say in practice, it doesn't mean too much. I did say that initially when I was doing the stream for it. However, I think it's worth noting that obviously he hasn't played a lot. Practice is pretty important for him at this stage. The forehand has started to come into it more in the second set. So I'll break it down set by set first. The first set, Dominic Thiem got blitzed, really. Lost it, pretty comfortably and didn't manage to get any breakpoint opportunities, didn't open up any. His returning was really poor. Benjamin Bonzi was just really, for the most part, getting through his service games really nicely, volleying nicely as well at times. I thought Thiem was just too short, not just on the forehand, but on the backhand side as well. For the majority of that set, it was just really, really tight, just not committing to the shots. He wasn't trying to hit with penetration through the court. He was just trying to induce errors into Bonzi, and it wasn't really working. And the Frenchman did really well, I thought, to pounce on the shorter balls and for most of those come to the net, finish the point off of the net, easy as you like. And that's exactly what I think you should be doing. I know it's a clay court. I understand that, you don't want to be rushing to the net, I guess, as you would maybe on a grass court. But you know what? I think it's a pretty underrated skill to have. And I think if you're a good net player and you can shorten points, it doesn't matter what surface. If you're able to utilize it correctly on that surface and adapt, you can still be very effective. I think Bonzi showed that. And we've seen all the elite players, Nadal, Djokovic, Federer. You think they don't volley on the clay? Of course they do. You'll watch them do it. And by playing the drop shot, which all of them do as well on the clay, it means that naturally you will have to come to the net if the opponent gets it for the most part. So yeah, I think generally very, very good from Benjamin Bonzi. I thought he was very solid. The backhand down the line was really good, I thought, from the Frenchman. I haven't actually seen a lot of him, if I'm being perfectly honest with you, but it was really good. It was really, really good from him. I thought he was committing to his ground strokes. He was playing some very intelligent tennis as well. Defensively, he looks pretty good. He was managing to stick in rallies with Thiem and just seems to have a little bit of everything. I mean, he serves quite big on the first serve. Again, I couldn't see the speeds of the serves, but it looked pretty big. And the second serve wasn't, terrible either. I mean, he's ranked, 58 in the world? I think he should be potentially top 40, top 30. I think he seems to have a pretty good game. And I don't know how his game translates onto other surfaces, if I'm being completely honest. But I think for me, as a clay courter anyway, I think he's not a bad clay court player to. He's definitely not a bad clay court player. That's for sure. So that was set one. Set one was just Benjamin Bonzi dominating. At the end of the set, I just thought, surely we can't see Dominic Thiem playing at this level. He needs to up it. He did. To be fair to him, he did. Now, the biggest issue for me in the second set was the forehand was still misfiring. I mean, the backhand, we started to see it more. We started to see him commit to the backhand down the line with that beautiful one-hander, and he just unleashed it, and he wasn't afraid to, and he hit a number of winners on that side. On the forehand, he also hit some winners on that side, but mainly they were ones where, he'd hit a good serve out wide. It's a shorter ball from Bonzi, and then he'd step in, and it was kind of, yes, he did commit to it, but he didn't need to particularly hit it with high intensity. It wasn't a difficult shot for him to hit, if you know what I mean. Whereas in the first set, he might have missed some of those. He wasn't. He was putting those away, going into out the forehand, going cross court into the open court. I didn't need to hit a lot of pace. Just needed to. Wasn't pushing it in court, but he was just easy into the court. So that was good to see. He was starting to get a better feel on the forehand, and then for the most part, it was definitely better the forehand in the second set, no doubt. I think he said in an interview after that, look, he was feeling a lot better on the forehand in the second set, and he was really, really upset that didn't go to a third set. Probably because he was thinking, look, I'm starting to actually play some decent tennis here. Let's see how this can go. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see how he is in, I guess, his future matches. But that was a positive that it actually improved throughout the match. It wasn't a case of it was just consistently bad throughout. No, we saw that, okay, he felt a little bit more confident on it, right? He started to commit to it more, and he started looking better. He said in the first set, I have absolutely no timing. So I think it was at 5-2 down. And, I think now he'll look at it and say, okay, well, I did have some timing in that second set. Right, let's see where we go from here. So that was a big plus, I thought. The drop shots were utilized relatively well at times. Bonzi was really good at being able to retrieve them as well, though, and also pass Dominic Thiem. Dominic Thiem's passing shots, we saw a couple of good ones, forehand cross court at a fantastic angle, but for the most part, he was struggling with them. He was struggling really to really trouble Bonzi at the net. And then the biggest issue, I think, throughout this whole match was his returning. I mean, he had 30 love up on Bonzi's serve twice in the second set. And normally, the Dominic Thiem of old would have opened up break points and at least taken one break in that second set and won it a break up because he managed to hold, his service games in that second set. After having to say, I think it was one break point, I think it was in the second set. But he didn't. He didn't manage to get any breakpoint opportunities for the whole match. Look at that, 0 out of 0 breakpoint save for Benjamin Bonzi. Didn't have to save a single one. Dominic Thiem was really poor returning wise. Just too many short returns into court. Not enough penetration for the most part. And when he did have good depth on it, and then he got into at least neutral, wasn't able to follow it up. He was then just misfiring, going into the net, going wide. It was just, very tight. Or he was pushing the ball back in court. I hate to say it, but he was at times. He really was. And I think, he needs to look at that. And I understand he doesn't want to be hitting a lot of unforced errors. He wants to try and get a feed into the rally. I get that. But it seems to be too extreme at times. He's either trying to push the ball back in court and just stay in the rally and be passive, or he's trying to blow Bonzi off the court. And he's not a grinder like Djokovic. He can't play like that. That style is just not suited to his game. Now, people might be surprised by this. I'm not. That he, when he was playing on tour before his injury, he was hitting the ball harder than anyone else. So average miles per hour on his ground strokes higher than anyone else on tour. Now you think about the amount of topspin as well he puts on the ball. He was ripping his ground strokes, ripping them. And that's why he was having so much success against everyone on tour. That's why he was pushing people. That's why he won a Grand Slam, why he made multiple Grand Slam finals. And that's why a lot of people were looking at him as the heir apparent, the one to become world number one next. It wasn't him that was Medvedev because he got injured, team. So it's not his fault he got injured, but he needs to start winning, because if he doesn't start winning, he's got a wild card into this event, and I guarantee you he'll get multiple more. But if he keeps on going out in first round, there'll be a point where people and tournaments will say, we can't keep on giving you wild cards. I reckon if he'll probably have maybe 5 or 6 more tournaments, and if he doesn't win any games in those tournaments, they will just say sorry, that's it. a wild card cut off almost, right? So we'll see. I think he's going to have wild cards for at least a wild card, if not a protected ranking for Madrid anyway, and other tournaments. Let's see how he gets on. I think he needs a win just for his confidence, and I think this was a really, really good opportunity in that second set. He had multiple set points and he didn't convert. Bonzi did have a match point first, to be fair, in that tiebreaker, but then Thiem then opened up 2 set points, wasn't able to convert, a couple of really bad errors. And then the way that the match ended was a forehand into the net, and it was almost, yeah, I mean, it was almost like the perfect way really for it to end, because it was just, that was a shot that was giving him the most trouble throughout the whole of the match, and that was what was disappointing, I think, as well. Is just, we want to see him at his best. I think a fully fit, firing Dominic Thiem, for me, is going to be up there with the rest of the elite. And can you just imagine, right? You've got Djokovic and Nadal, the kind of old guns, still firing, still firing, and still being very competitive. And then you've got your Tsitsipas's, your Zverevs, your Medvedevs, the guys who are really starting to creep into their prime, and they're now looking to, they've won. One of them's won a Grand Slam. Two of them have made Grand Slam finals. They've won multiple Masters 1000s. They're, hot on the heels of those two. Alcaraz just surged through out of nowhere, right? 18-year-old. He is now almost up there with those guys. And then you've got Dominic Thiem as well. So, yeah. Anyways, thanks very much, guys, for tuning in. Please remember to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you on the next video.